Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caden Kubler, and thank you so much for tuning into Caden's Corner. What a beautiful day it is, ladies and gentlemen. It feels like Christmas morning. It feels like I just woke up running down the stairs to go to check the tree, see what presents I've got. And we've got a beautiful gift wrap slate of games in college football this weekend. We've got 5 days straight of games. We had games last night. We saw Nebraska versus Cincinnati. We saw Boise State, who was in the college football playoff last year, lose to USF. Tonight, we get a great game between Baylor and Auburn. We've got a jam-packed slate tonight on Friday night. And then, of course, week 1 on Saturday. We've got the reigning, defending national champions in the Ohio State Buckeyes hosting the #1 team in the nation in the Texas Longhorns. We've got a great slate of games on Saturday. We've got games on Sunday, a top 10 matchup between Miami and Notre Dame. And then on Monday night, we get to see the debut of Bill Belichick in North Carolina. What a time it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's officially Christmas morning. We've got presents under the tree. I'm going to be unwrapping all of them for you guys today, breaking down everything in the college football world for this weekend, breaking down everything in the NFL world that's coming up because we're less than a week away, and we saw one of the biggest trades in NFL history take place yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into this. We've got a massive trade in the NFL world. Oh my goodness, Micah Parsons has been traded to the Dallas Cowboys, or he's been traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. What a situation we have here. I never in a million years would have expected this to happen because of the fact that this is Jerry Jones and this is the Dallas Cowboys. They've always been hard-headed. They've always been tough, but at the end of the day, you still feel like he's going to get that deal done. He's going to get that star on his helmet back, and he's going to be playing for the Dallas Cowboys. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere on Thursday afternoon, he gets traded for 2 first-round picks for Kenny Clark, and he gets the highest non-quarterback contract in NFL history. The Green Bay Packers have already signed him to a 4-year, $188 million contract. I always felt like with this entire situation with Dallas and with Micah that it was always going to get done because the same thing happened with Dak Prescott to a certain degree. Now, he didn't request a trade, and neither did CeeDee, so Micah kind of took it a step further, but they were both like disgruntled situations where Micah Parsons was upset, Dak was upset, and CeeDee was upset, but ultimately, Dak Prescott got the highest contract in NFL history, CeeDee Lamb got extended, and you always felt like that deal was going to get done, no matter the tension that was there, and we saw this with Terry McLaurin, and we saw it with Trey Hendrickson as well. Both guys requested trades, but you always felt like in the back of your mind, okay, the deals are going to get done. They're not going anywhere because they're too valuable to their teams. I felt the same thing about Micah. No way did I think he was going to get traded to the Green Bay Packers of all places too, inside of the NFC in one of the most brutal divisions in football. The NFC North is shaping up to be an absolute gauntlet, an absolute bloodbath. You have the Detroit Lions, who won 15 games last year, were the #1 seed in the NFC. You have the Minnesota Vikings, who won 14 games last year, the #5 seed in the NFC. And then you have the Green Bay Packers, who won 11 games. Now they get Micah Parsons. They get a true #1 wide receiver on the outside for Jordan Love. The biggest complaint I'd have for this team was that, and they finally addressed it. And now you have the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams, this entire situation where they get Ben Johnson, they load up the offensive line, they get a better receiving core. Everything seems like it's going to work. Everything seems like it's going to work for Chicago. And now you have every single team that's going to be so competitive. I cannot wait to see how the NFC North plays out because it's going to be peak cinema. But let's talk about the Green Bay Packers because I now believe that this is a team that can realistically win the Super Bowl. And I felt like they could win the Super Bowl without Micah Parsons. Obviously, this makes it a lot easier. They're now the favorite to win the NFC North. At first, it was the Lions, and I believe the Packers were third in line to win the NFC North. They catapult both of those teams. They leapfrog both of those squads. Now they are the favorite to win the NFC North, which is huge news for the NFL. And the way I'm looking at this is it starts with Jordan Love. Jordan Love has to be the catalyst for the Green Bay Packers. They paid him top dollar a few seasons ago. They feel that he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I talk about this all the time. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. But sometimes when you get in this situation where you have a quarterback that's in that 10 to 15 range and you feel like you have to pay them just because you drafted them and you want to honor them, almost like a Tua Tagovailoa or a Kyler Murray. Jordan Love, because of the regression last year, and I'm not blaming Jordan Love. I'm on the Jordan Love train, and I feel like he's going to be a top 10 quarterback once the season gets rolling. He's fully healthy because he was injured last year. He was banged up. The Packers still miraculously won 11 games. That speaks volumes about how truly good this football team is. But the point I'm trying to make here is that Jordan Love's got to show he's not in that 10 to 15 range, and he's in the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, and he's maybe in that higher echelon, that higher tier that's like, I can win you football games because of how good I am. And when you're paid that much money, over $50 million per year, you've got to be able to win your team football games, despite the receiving core, despite who you've got out there, despite the offensive line, despite the run game. We saw Josh Allen lose both of his top two weapons last year in Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, and he won the MVP because he was simply that good. Go to Cam Newton a few years ago when he won the MVP in 2015. That was just Cam. Patrick Mahomes, no Tyreek Hill, no problem. They win 2 Super Bowls in a row. You have to get to the point where you lose your receivers and you're still inevitable. We saw it with Justin Herbert last year. Say all you want about Herbert. He lost both of his guys, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. He still gets them to the playoffs. Yes, he throws 4 picks, but he gets them to the playoffs. You've got to show that you can win football games because you are truly that good. And I believe we're going to see that from Jordan Love. This receiving core was nothing special last year. They never had a true number one wide receiver. And that was what Josh Jacobs said about this team this offseason. And the wide receivers got mad at him. Truth hurts sometimes. The truth hurts sometimes. And I believe that the Green Bay Packers solved that issue this offseason. The biggest complaint I had about this team was that they didn't have a true number one wide receiver. Well, they draft Matthew Golden in the first round. The Packers, hallelujah, they draft a receiver for the first time in the first round since 2002. The rejoices are happening in the land of Green Bay. They're excited, and they should be, because this is a team now with Matthew Golden, who by all accounts and by all reports has been the best receiver on this football team as a rookie. And a lot of people have been telling me, oh, Caden, stop hyping up this team. Jordan Love's overrated. The receiver, what can he really do in his rookie year? Can he really be that good? Absolutely. Look at Ladd McConkey. Look at Brian Thomas Jr. Look at Malik Neighbors. 3 receivers last year that all had over 1,000 yards in their rookie season. You're going to tell me right now that Matthew Golden can't be a day one playmaker? He can't be a day one contributor? I'd tell you you're wrong, because he can be and he will be. That's what he's going to be for this team. He's going to be the true number one wide receiver. Then it comes down to a guy like Jaden Reed, who's awesome. Christian Watson, who they took pretty high in the draft, who, if he gets healthy midway through the year, he can be pretty special as well. So this receiving core all of a sudden is going to come together really nice. Tucker Kraft is a really solid tight end. And I think what gets lost in this entire situation is how good Josh Jacobs was last year. Josh Jacobs ran for over 1,300 yards. He had 15 touchdowns. He was the staple of this offense. And I go back to this point I was trying to make last year where it was like, okay, you see the Chiefs go out and take Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round. And that's kind of the blueprint with modern day running backs. You don't need to take them in the first round. You can go out and get, a Bijan Robinson, but also, do you want to spend a top 10 pick on Bijan, or would you rather just take a guy like Pacheco who, there's definitely a fall off, but you can still get an insane amount of production? The Chiefs almost reinvented what the running back position looked like. You can say that there was a huge revitalization at that position with Josh Jacobs, with Derrick Henry, with a multitude of running backs last year that revitalized this position. And Josh Jacobs was arguably the head man. Once him and Las Vegas went separate ways, he balled out for Green Bay last year. And I'm expecting the same thing for him this season. I think Josh Jacobs could be a tremendous player for this Green Bay team. He's going to be the staple of this offense. Then it goes to Jordan Love. Then it goes to Matthew Golden. Then it goes to Matt LaFleur, who is a tremendous winner in the NFL, like it or not. Jordan Love, ladies and gentlemen, is approaching his 3rd year as a starter. This gets lost in the mix. He sat 2 years behind Rodgers. He's played 2 full seasons in the NFL as a starter. You know who else has done that? CJ Stroud. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on Jordan Love. The dude's 26 years old. In his first season starting, he threw for over 4,000 passing yards, over 30 touchdowns, completed over 64% of his passes, and by the hair of his chinny chin chin, almost got the Green Bay Packers into the NFC Championship. They should have beat the 49ers, and then the 49ers go on to almost beat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. That's where the Packers were in year one under Jordan Love. Last year, he gets banged up, he's injured, and it didn't look good. He didn't look crispy. The passing game didn't look good. And everyone would tell you that. He took a sophomore slump, per se. He went from 4,100 passing yards to 33, an 800-yard dip. He goes from 32 touchdowns to 25 touchdowns, a 7-touchdown dip. Through the same amount of interceptions, the completion percentage went down. I would chalk that up to injuries. I would. And I believe he would too. I believe in my mind right now that Jordan Love is going to be a dark horse MVP candidate. I'm going to put that on the record right now. I'm all in on Jordan Love. I'm all in on this Packers team. I didn't need to see this Micah Parsons trade to already be sold on this squad. Now it happens. I'm even more sold. The stock that I bought in May, you can go back and fact check this. You can go back to Caden's Corner. The stock that I bought in May, boy, it's looking pretty good right now. It's like NVIDIA over the last few years. Man, my Green Bay stock's looking like NVIDIA right now because it's on the up and up. I'm big on this Green Bay team. I'm big on Micah Parsons. He is already on a Hall of Fame pace for how good he's been playing in 4 years. This Green Bay team is going to be deadly. They're the favorite right now for a reason in the NFC North. They're my favorite in the NFC North. And if I had to give an official power rankings in terms of the NFC, I'll give it to you guys right now. I'm going to go Philadelphia at 1. It's pretty obvious, reigning defending champs. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams at 2 for good reason. And I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers at 3. I'm going to go with Green Bay at 3. I think they have catapulted the Commanders. I think they have catapulted the Buccaneers. I think they've catapulted the Minnesota Vikings. They are at number 3 right now in the NFC. The NFC just got a lot tougher thanks to Jerry Jones. And boy, I cannot wait for week 4 when we get to see the Cowboys versus the Packers. If Jordan Love stays healthy, because he had that surgery on his left hand, if he stays healthy this season, this team is going to make a deep run. I'm all in on I'm all in on the Green Bay Packers, excuse me. Let's head over to college football. Ladies and gentlemen, my Big Red, they did it last night. They did it. They pulled it out. They pulled out a tough one in Cincinnati. The Big Red faithful showed up in a big-time way. I can't even tell you how big of an advantage that was. It felt like the announcers last night, all they were talking about was how this was a neutral site. And then all the Nebraska fans take it over. And in my mind, I'm like, this is Nebraska football. That's Nebraska for you. And they did so in a big-time way. Nebraska, it felt like they were going to let go of the rope like they always do and lose it at the very end. But in year 3 of the Matt Rule era, I've been hyping it up. Things are changing. Things are changing. This was a massive win for Nebraska because if they lose this game, I think you're going to have a lot of overreacting in the media. And there's definitely a lot of things that you can clean up. You know, it's week 1. I wasn't overly thrilled with the front 7. Cincinnati had like 40 passing yards before they had to try and drive the ball down the field for that final drive. Sorsby only finished with 69 yards. Nice. They rushed for 202 yards on this Cornhusker defense. They feasted. They feasted on this defense. Sorsby rushed for almost 100 yards. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. The Cornhuskers front 7 is going to have to be a lot better controlling the line of scrimmage if this is going to be a college football playoff team like I'm hyping them up to be. Offensively, I was pleased. They can be a lot better. I was pleased. What I've been talking about a lot this offseason was, okay, Dylan Raiola year 2, Emmett Johnson's back, Dana Holgerson's back for a full season. He's the guy. They kill it in the portal, get Dane Key, Isaiah Hunter, your 2 leading receivers for good reason. Isaiah Hunter, 6 receptions, 65 yards and a tud. Dane Key, 6 receptions, 51 yards and a touchdown. Those portal additions looked really good. I thought the offensive line did a good job in terms of blocking. I think they can be better in pass protection, but they did a good job controlling the line of scrimmage, in my opinion, allowing Emmett Johnson to spring some runs. The one thing I want to see better offensively, this team didn't have explosivity in the passing game, in my opinion. Now, Dylan had 240 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, had a really clean game. I thought he managed the game really well. 33 completions off of 42 attempts. Nebraska is going to have to be more aggressive in the passing game. I understand Holgorsen is a great offensive mind, and I believe we're going to see more. It almost makes you wonder, did they dumb down the playbook just a little bit? Because it's only week 1, and you don't want to show too much before you go into the Big Ten. That's a question. At the same token, I want to see this offense be a little more dynamic. I don't think I saw a completion or a throw over 20 yards. There was like one dig to Dane Key over the middle of the field. I didn't see anything down the field. I want to see some down the field stuff. Now, Dylan did a great job outside of one throw. I thought he managed the game really well. I thought he was taking what was open. He was taking what the defense was giving him. And I felt like he showed a lot of maturity for a young quarterback, transitioning from year 1 to year 2. I want to see now another step from this passing game from Holgorsen and company, because they've got a really good team in Michigan that's going to be coming into Lincoln here in 3 weeks, that they can't replicate that same game against Cincinnati. They can't do it. Now, in years past, Nebraska loses this game. So things are changing. You have to be happy in that way. Things are changing. So this was ultimately a great first win for Nebraska. No matter how you cut the cake, this is a good first win. They'll take it. Now, in our other game yesterday, South Florida versus Boise State. Boise State was initially my prediction to make it into the college football playoff as our group of 5 winner, and they laid an egg last night. They did not look good whatsoever. This was a defense that was supposed to be a lot better. This was a team that had shorter odds to make the college football playoff this year than when they did with Ashton Genty. And they only put up 7 points without Genty. It makes you wonder truly how much he carried this team. I mean, shoot, I think you could give him the Heisman just off of that game last night. That's how dominant he was. He got this team into the college football playoff. He was rushing for like 300 yards every game. And this team puts up 7 points in his absence. I think might need a recount. But South Florida, huge first win of the season. I was so impressed with their quarterback, Byron Brown. I mean, this dude was seeking out hits. I've never seen a team defensively, too. They were hitting hard. They were cracking pads in week 1. And this is a huge first win for South Florida. You beat a top 25 team in the country, your stock all of a sudden rises to be a group of 5 team that can make it into the college football playoff. Now they've got 2 really tough teams. Credit to them for scheduling tough non-conference games. They're going to go on the road against Florida, and then they're going to go on the road against Miami the next 2 weeks. But this is a huge first win. This team's going to be competitive. They're not going to be easy for Florida, and they're not going to be easy for Miami. So they could definitely throw their hat in the ring to be that group of 5 team that makes it into the CFP. These next 2 games are tough, but I was really impressed with the way that Southern Florida came out there and pulled out a big-time dub. That was a big game. Friday is going to deliver. Tonight is going to deliver. We've got some good games. The game I've got my eye on personally is Auburn versus Baylor. Baylor hosting Auburn. I believe this is going to be a solid game. 2 teams that are, trying to get ranked, trying to get over the hump. I think Auburn is going to be better this year with Jackson Arnold, and I think Baylor was one of the hottest teams in college football in the second half of the year, and they made things interesting. They are one of the teams that can win the Big 12. They're that good of a team. They're bringing back Sawyer Robertson. I like Baylor to win this one tonight. They're my official pick. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an absolute monster day in college football in less than 24 hours. In 20 and a half hours, we get the Hook'em Horns against the Ohio State Buckeyes, the reigning, defending national champions, and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Archermania, Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith. Get your popcorn, get your bacon, get your eggs. This is going to be must-see TV, potentially the game of the year in week 1. I cannot wait for this game. I think there are a few aspects, a few storylines that I'm keying in on the most before I get to my official pick here. First of all, I want to see how Ohio State responds to losing so many guys to the draft. They lost 15 starters last season to the draft. They obviously win the national championship. So many guys elect to come back last season because they had unfinished business. They get Will Howard in the portal, Quinshon Judkins. They have a loaded roster. They dominate in the national championship. They dominate in the college football playoff. They were a team of destiny. You can't deny that. But they've got some big changes now. They have, probably the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith, debatably the best defensive player in college football in Caleb Downs. And they've got a really good quarterback coming in Julian Sayin, who won this job. Ryan Day, we know he always announces his QBs late, but I think everybody knew in the back of their head Julian Sayin was going to be the guy. He was going to be the guy for Ohio State. I think they're going to be really good. I think Ohio State's going to be really good. But on the other side, you've got a team coming in that is number one for a reason. They've got a dude under center, number 16, maybe the best player in the country, Mr. Arch Manning. He's the favorite to win the Heisman. This dude, he's going to be so good. He's going to be so good. I mean, I can't wait for this game. Arch Manning is going to be amazing. And I know you kind of have like a mixed crowd. Half of the people are like, I'm sick of the Arch Manning overhype. The dude's not that good. I think Jordan Palmer said this week, I watched the tape and it's really not that good. It's like, what? The tape's not that good? Have you watched the tape? Have you seen the flashes that he showed? He sat for 2 years. Completely learned this offense. He's 6'4". He's mobile. He's got speed. He can make any throw on the football field. He's got a cannon of an arm. And Sark is his coach? You can't tell me that Arch Manning is not going to be a guy. People are just trying to be different. That's what is so frustrating. People just love the hot takes. That's sports media. People just want to be different. Arch Manning's going to be unbelievable. Let's not sugarcoat it. He's going to be so good. I ultimately have Texas winning this game. I need a larger sample size from Ohio State before I can say they're going to start beating teams of Texas's caliber, the number one team in the nation. Now, yes, Arch Manning, he's the guy now. And even though he started 2 games last year, what's he going to look like this season? I think there's more uncertainty at the quarterback position for Ohio State with Julian Sayin than there is with Arch Manning. Arch Manning is going to deliver. I don't think the moment's going to be too big for him. I really don't. And I know that they've got to go on the road. Ohio State's going to be tough. This defense is always great. Caleb Downs is a dog. You've got a good secondary over there. Igbinosin and company. I like Texas to win this one. I know it's a short spread right now. I think Ohio State opened up as like a field goal favorite. It might be down to 1.5 right now. So you could basically call this a pick 'em. But I'm going to roll with Texas. I believe in Arch Manning. I believe in Sarkisian. He's the favorite to win the Heisman for a reason. And I've got the Hook'em Horns pulling off a massive week 1 win in college football to set the tone and let the college football world know, hey, we're here and we've got a guy under center. In the game that, I would say is right there in terms of importance for Texas and Ohio State is in the nighttime game, and it's between Clemson and LSU. I saw the statistics that said whatever team loses this game, I think both teams have above a 50% chance to get into the college football playoff before this game. 2 top 10 teams in the nation. Whatever team loses, I think they go all the way down to like a 30% chance to make the college football playoff, and I think it's more severe for LSU because they're in the SEC, and the SEC is obviously brutal, but for LSU, I mean, these are some massive implications and massive stakes to try and win this game, to try and get this one done. Because you started as a top 10 team in the nation last year and you fizzled, the defense was bad again. I don't know how long the leash is for Brian Kelly. I really don't know how long it is, but you've got a guy at the quarterback position in Garrett Nussmeier who's unbelievable. They supposedly shored up this defense in the portal. They spent a lot of money in the portal because Bryce Underwood decommitted and went to Michigan, or committed to Michigan. They spend that money in the portal on dogs, on absolute dogs. But on the other side, you've got Clemson at home with maybe the best quarterback in the nation in Cade Klubnik, threw for over 40 touchdowns last year. In the Cade Klubnik era, they've never had a great offense, except for last year. Last year, the offense was good. But before that, the offense, it was like watching paint dry. It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. But that's because they didn't have anyone that could win off the line of scrimmage. Now you've got the best offense in the Cade Klubnik era, and this is a team that can go win the national championship. This is an easy ACC. There are levels to this in the ACC, and Clemson is the top dog. Miami, they're top 10, but they've got a lot to prove. They got to show that they can hang with Clemson, in my opinion. Clemson, in my opinion. Clemson, we know what they can do. And Cade Klubnik can play himself into the number 1 overall pick. You've got a great receiving core, one of the best in the nation. I think PFF ranks at top 5 in the country. You've got a good offensive line. You've got a great defense with some dogs up front. And you've got Dabo Swinney, who's got championship pedigree. And sometimes that's what it comes down to. So I believe, in my heart, Clemson is going to steamroll LSU. And they are going to put the college football world on notice. I am so confident in Cade Klubnik. I believe that Clemson makes it to the national championship. I wouldn't be surprised if they win it all. Right now, they're a 4.5-point favorite. Give me Clemson to win this one. Some games with not as much importance on Saturday. We'll go to the Alabama-Florida State game. Florida State obviously made some big additions. They were bad last year. Top 10 team in the country. I think they only won 2 games. There's a lot riding on this season, and they went out and had a huge portal. They get a new OC, new DC, you name it. There are high expectations for Florida State this season, and they're hosting another team with sky-high expectations in the Alabama Crimson Tide. Unlucky for Florida State, I think Alabama is going to win the SEC and is probably a top 3 team in college football. And now it's all going to come down to Ty Simpson. I can't wait to see how he plays. He's maybe the most intriguing quarterback outside of Arch Manning that I'm watching tomorrow. You know, we're looking for who's going to enter that conversations with your Klubniks of the world, your Nussmeyers of the world, your Lenore Sellers, your Drew Allers, etc. Arch Manning's going to put himself in that conversation. We already understand that. Can Ty Simpson do it? He's a top 10 in terms of odds favorite to win the Heisman. I think he could do it. I really do. I'm really anticipating this matchup between Alabama and between Florida State. Ty Simpson's got a tremendous receiving core, tremendous offensive line. This is a really talented team, and I believe in what Kalen DeBoer is doing. I think he's a great coach. I think people threw him under the bus way too early at Alabama. I like Alabama to win this one huge. Another statement game. They're almost a 2-touchdown favorite. Give me the Crimson Tide. All right, let's move to Monday because we've got a top 10 matchup between the Catholics versus the Convicts is what they used to call it. Notre Dame and Miami. Tremendous game. Miami hosting Notre Dame. Notre Dame obviously was in the national championship last year. Miami had a very busy offseason. You lose the number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward, but you go out and get Carson Beck, who has a lot riding on this season, who's trying to play himself into a guy that, you know, is a highly touted and highly sought after player in terms of the NFL. And I believe that he can put himself in that conversation. 6'4", good arm, good accuracy, but he's got a lot to clean up. Last year was not his most solid year. And he understands that. That's why he came back. I love the decision for him to come back and play college football. You know, you can't beat out on making a few million through the NIL. Go into Miami. Weather doesn't stink. You've got a lot of positives up there. And for Notre Dame, you lose out on winning the national championship last year, but you exceeded expectations with Marcus Freeman. And everybody understands that. And they've got a lot of pieces coming back that would tell you this team will be in the college football playoff this year. This team will be contending, but it's also going to come down to what the quarterback position was going to look like. Riley Leonard was good last year, comes over from Duke, goes to Notre Dame, has a great run. They get to the Natty, but they were really run heavy. They were a predominantly run offense, run first offense. You've got the best running back in the country in Jeremiah Love returning. You've got a tremendous offensive line. What can CJ Carr do for you? This dual threat QB. I've got high expectations for him. I can't wait to watch this quarterback battle, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to give the edge here to Miami. They're the underdog at home. I think their offense is going to be more proven than Notre Dame's. Supposedly, this defense is a lot better. That's what everyone's saying. They're going to have to sell out against the run. You got to make CJ Carr beat you in the air. And if you can do that, I think you've won the game. You've done what you can do. And if CJ Carr beats you, he beats you. Because Jeremiah Love, if you give him, weak boxes or opportunities to run the football, he's going to gash you for 200. And they're going to control the line of scrimmage. They're going to dominate. Miami has got to force third and longs. They've got to fit the gaps. And they've got to stop Jeremiah Love. Obviously easier said than done. Don't get me wrong here. Jeremiah Love is the key to victory for Notre Dame. Carson Beck has to be tremendous if Miami not only wants to win this top 10 matchup, if they not only want to show the college football world, hey, we're going to make the college football playoff for the first time in the school's history, but he's got to do this if he wants to show the NFL world, hey, I'm a guy. I'm a guy that can, be a franchise quarterback. We'll see what Carson Beck can do. We'll see what this team can do. We've got some great matchups on Sunday, great matchups on Monday. And that leads us into the final recap and the final stretch before the NFL season starts. Got a little fantasy draft this weekend. I'm feeling good. Got football tomorrow. I'm feeling good. We had some huge news this week, not only in the Micah Parsons realm, but it revolves still in the pass rushing realm. And there's not a team that I've been higher on over the last few years and missed than the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Burrow gets hurt 2 years ago. Last year, they start slow. He picks it up. At the end of the year, he's an MVP candidate. You name it. I missed on the Bengals the last 2 years in a row. And this was a very concerning start to the offseason for them. Trey Hendrickson's holding out. You draft a D-end in the first round in Shamar Stewart, who you don't get a deal done with until a few weeks ago. Way too late, but at least he's there. You've got him now. And they re-signed Trey Hendrickson. Massive, massive deal. I wasn't sure whether they were going to trade him or not, try and get some assets. The rumor was that he was going to get a 3-year deal. They disagreed on the money. There wasn't guaranteed money after year one. So what they did was they settled and they gave him a $14 million raise this year. Mind you, Trey Hendrickson led the NFL in sacks last year with 17.5. They gave him a $14 million raise. He's now making $30 million a year. And this Bengals team, they're going to be better defensively. You hope. Because if they're not, paying T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow, that's only going to go so far. Because, if Evan McPherson can't make kicks, you're not going to get to the playoffs. If this defense is going to give up 50 a game, the offense is going to also put up 50. But, there comes a certain point in time where you've got to start taking the right moves to build around Joe Burrow and to maximize what he can give you. Because he's the only quarterback in the NFL, dare I say, that can beat Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, Jalen Hurts did it. I get it. The Philadelphia Eagles, come on, they had no holes on that team. Now, everyone's going to sit here and say, oh, I just took a shot at Jalen Hurts. No, I didn't. He's a top 10 QB in the league. I love Jalen Hurts. He's awesome. But please, let's be realistic here. Joe Burrow carried the heck out of the Cincinnati Bengals last year. The fact that they were 9-8 and almost got into the playoffs was unbelievable. If I had a vote, I would have voted Joey B as the MVP. It's a good rhyme right there. I would have voted Joey B as the MVP. He led the NFL in nearly every single stat. He was led the NFL in yards, led the NFL in touchdowns, had barely any interceptions, was top 3 in completion percentage. You call Joe Burrow's number, and he was going to give it to you. And T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, they were kind of in and out of the lineup for the first few weeks of the season. I want to see what Cincinnati looks like defensively before I all of a sudden put them back into my Super Bowl contending tier. Because I don't want to, fall into this trap again where I take them for the 3rd year in a row. Oh, I fall for it. And then I look like a fool. I'm sky high on them. This is going to be the best offense in football, I can tell you that. But it doesn't do you much if you got the worst defense on football on the other side. So I want to see what they look like, first of all, before I start overreacting and say, yes, this is a team all of a sudden that can go win it all, that can go slay Patrick Mahomes, and can start a little dynasty here with Joey B. He can go win the MVP. So we'll see what happens with this Bengals team. I'm very curious for this upcoming season. That was a big move that happened earlier this week. Two smaller moves that happened. The wide receiver spot. We saw Amari Cooper re-sign with the Raiders. I think the Raiders have got a lot of upside. They've got a lot of upside. They bring in Pete Carroll. They go get Geno Smith, draft Ashton Genty. They hit on Brock Bowers last year. And yes, Jacoby Myers did request a trade, but you bring in Amari Cooper. If he's got some, gas left in the tank, it could be pretty decent. I think the Raiders, with all things considered, in a brutal division with Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos, they can be competitive. They can be competitive in the AFC. Dare I say, they can flirt with being 500, which is going to be tough with how good the AFC is. I like the signing. I like the addition. You want to see him bring back Jacoby. That's big. The other massive move in the NFL world is Adam Thielen is now back with the Minnesota Vikings. New man on the Minnesota Vikings. That is Adam Thielen. He's back. We know that Jordan Addison, their number 2 receiver, has a suspension for the first 3 weeks of the season. Justin Jefferson, arguably the best receiver in football. But for this team, they've done a tremendous job of having this system in place for J.J. McCarthy to flourish, for him to thrive. Kevin O'Connell, offensive mastermind. I firmly believe that you could put every single quarterback in the NFL in that system, and they're going to look like an MVP. They're going to look that good. Sam Darnold was unbelievable last year. Unbelievable. And I'm not saying he's not a talented quarterback, but where do we want to say the success comes from? I'm willing to bet it's from Kevin O'Connell. Now, he's a talented player. I hope he kills it with Seattle. But Kevin O'Connell is a different breed. Now, I would say you're bringing in, arguably, in terms of pure talent with JJ, a quarterback who is mobile, who can move, who's got a big arm, good velocity, accurate. I think J.J. McCarthy, in terms of pure talent, is the most talented guy Kevin O'Connell's had to work with in Minnesota. And you've got a disgusting offense around him, a great offensive line, a great defense. It just seems like everything is coming together for Minnesota and for J.J. McCarthy to blow it out of the box. And that's why I'm so terrified about the NFC North. It is just so ridiculously brutal. It's so good. It's so tough. It's so hard to even predict who's going to win. Like, I've got the Packers right now as the favorite. I think Minnesota's going to win the division, but in terms of who the favorite is, I'm fine with Green Bay being the favorite. For me, Detroit will make the playoffs. Chicago will not. But it's going to be tough, man. I can't wait for this season to play out. The NFC is so competitive. It's so competitive. You can try and predict which 7 are going to make it, and you're going to have one team that's left out that you're going to be mad about. You're going to be like, man, I don't want to leave them out. I don't want to leave the Vikings out. I don't want to leave the Lions out. I don't want to leave the Commanders out. I don't want to leave the Rams out. But you've got to. Because this is going to be one of the most competitive years we've seen in a while. I can't wait for it, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a tremendous weekend of football ahead of us. We've got great football tonight. We've got great football tomorrow. We've got great football Sunday, great football Monday. I'll be live again Monday. I'll be live again next Friday. If you guys want to keep up with me throughout the week, you can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram at Caden's Corner. I thank you guys for making me a part of your day, and I hope you guys have a blessed weekend, a great rest of your day. Enjoy football. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We made it. From Caden Kubler and Caden's Corner, thank you guys so much for watching, and you have yourself a great weekend.